What an incredible event this has been so far. The amazing speakers that have been up on this stage. It makes me so grateful to be alive in this time, this era that we're in. Access to knowledge, resources, opportunities, they're at the tips of our fingers. It has never been easier to start a hobby, to do a DIY project, or even launch a business. Which is why I'm here today. Because as somebody who's never had a 9-to-5 job or gone to college, I was told I was throwing my life away. And yet by 18 years old, I'd created a multi-million-dollar business. Wait, what? What did she just say? At 18, she did what? Yeah, I know it sounds pretty crazy. And I don't say it to brag. I say it to make a point. My story is not one of just success or money. It's about a belief that I want to share with you today, that every company needs a kid. Not to fetch coffee or to be your intern, but to bring a sense of creativity, curiosity, and courage in an endless world of possibility to imagine a future of what's possible. Entire industries, corporations have vanished because they failed to evolve. Take Toys R Us, for example, gone, crushed by online retailers because they failed to evolve. MySpace, wiped out by a 19-year-old who dared to dream of a different future. And that's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you've got two brothers, 19 and 22, in their dorm room who created Stripe, a payment processor that now rivals one of the biggest in the world, PayPal. And I mean, let's not forget about Airbnb. Two broke guys renting out mattresses from their apartment, and a decade later, they're worth billions, rivaling hotel chains like Hilton and Marriott. Guys, these were just kids. They were young people who dared to dream of a different future. And this pattern is everywhere. Innovation is rarely coming from the inside. It's coming from people on the outside. People with fresh ideas, unfiltered imagination, and no respect for the limits. And I know this very well myself. When I was growing up, I watched the rise and fall of one of the biggest media sales platforms in the world, the infomercial. My mother, Forbes Riley, happens to be one of the most recognizable faces in that space. She actually helped pioneer that concept in the 80s. And I remember a time when I was a kid, you could turn on the cable TV and flip through the channels, and every other channel she'd be on there pitching a product. But slowly that industry began to change. Once a vibrant streaming platform like Netflix and YouTube and Roku came in, commercial airtime started to vanish. And when COVID happened, everything changed. It all went downhill quite quickly. Studios shut down, traditional media started to close down, and once a billion-dollar industry that was thriving was becoming outdated. And going down with that ship was my dear mother, and that needed to desperately evolve. So when I was 17, I stepped up and I said, well, why don't we start a business? You know, the world's changing, you're great at pitching. Why don't we teach other people how to pitch? This is the next chapter. And there was a bit of hesitation. She went, you're 17, what do you know? Okay. I said, trust me. And you know, I thank her every day for believing in me to make this happen. I went off onto my computer and I said, you know what, trust me, let me cook. And I built the sales pages, I built the automations, and with my virtual assistant, we launched an online webinar, very similar to an infomercial, where we sold a $1,000 product on how to pitch. Within 9 months of launching that offer, with my brilliant marketing skills, if I do say so myself, and her incredible talent of pitching and teaching people to pitch, we grossed over $1 million in revenue. Thank you. Now, I will admit, I'm a bit of a marketing prodigy. I really freaking love it. I love getting products out to the world. And, I wasn't going to share this story, but when I was 12, I actually launched a drop shipping business. I made $10,000 in 1 month and realized, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And what's crazy is I didn't learn that from textbooks or from a college. I learned that from YouTube tutorials, online forums, and a relentless drive to solve problems in the marketplace. Guys, let's get real. I was a kid in my bedroom with a laptop, and that allowed me to connect to my most powerful asset, my imagination for what was possible in this world. This has allowed me to realize a few things. One of the most important things is I find it interesting that people think the biggest barrier to success is knowledge. Like if I just knew how to do the thing, I'd be unstoppable. And I get it. Trust me, I get it. We've been convinced that knowledge is something that must be purchased, packaged, and presented in the form of a diploma. That mindset is not just outdated, it's dangerous. It trains us to think like adults, to follow a rigid set of rules, and in doing so, we lose our greatest asset, our childlike curiosity and boundless imagination for the future. So, a quote I've come to love by Albert Einstein: "Imagination is more important than knowledge." And he was right. The greatest ideas of the next decades aren't coming from boardrooms or business schools alone. They're coming from young kids in their bedroom, dreamers who learn a new skill, or entrepreneurs who start a business from their garage. They're coming from people who are not afraid to ask the questions, what if, or why not? The people who are not afraid to step into a future, that are not asking permission for what's possible, but dreaming it and making it happen. And I know that sounds very idealistic. Trust me, I get it. But I've seen it for myself in real life. Another trend I noticed 5-10 years ago, before it kind of became obvious, is that in order to innovate in this world, to stay relevant, you need to know how to use the internet. And luckily, as someone who was literally born with a cell phone in my hand, like everybody else in my generation, it's kind of second nature to me. But for my baby boomers out there, it's a massive blocker. And in my business, one of the questions I always get asked is, Makenna, how do I use the internet for my well-seasoned community? That's my way of saying older. I don't believe it's old. I believe that you're seasoned with knowledge. Guys, it's not funny. You guys are brilliant. I swear, this is why I do what I do for a living. But you have these experiences, these expertise that deserve to be shared with the world. But if you don't figure out this new world of AI and social media and the internet, you will be left behind. And to me, I think that's just an absolute shame. So I went on to create something I call GSD. It stands for Get Stuff Done. And over the course of creating that, we've helped 5,000 business owners bring their businesses onto the online world and impact millions of lives through the internet. And I've seen firsthand how when you bring experience and you bring innovation, someone who understands the internet together, you can create magic. And in doing so, I've created financial freedom for thousands of people by the age of 22. So what does this mean for you? Well, whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, you're a professional with decades of experience, or you're just someone sitting on a brilliant idea, I want you to know you don't have to figure this out on your own. I ask that you reach out for help from someone who's younger, from your kids, from your grandkids, someone who understands this new world, who understands how to integrate AI and social media, the things that are changing the world today. And if you do not get on this bandwagon, you will be left behind. And for my young people out there, don't underestimate yourself. You know how this new world works, and that has real value. You have instincts when it comes to the internet. So here's my challenge to you. Whether you're 19 or 59, it is time to partner up. It is time to bridge the gap between generations, between experience and innovation, because the world is not slowing down, and the future will not wait for you. Every company needs a kid, and every kid needs someone wise enough to listen. Thank you.